but there's one thing they lack and that we have is that our literal dedication and commitment to the craft itself and the love for comics itself and our community. Like we have so many personal relationships with so many people in our community.
Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the show we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today on the show, we have the CEO of Comix Wellspring joining us, Dan Hills, and we talk about what's been going on with CWS, from our move to insight on production, turnaround times, and the future of Comix Wellspring. A lot has happened, and our CEO is here to tell you everything. So all that, and actually so much more on today's Inspired Inc. Yeah, I mean, speaking of family and whatnot, before we dive into everything, like how has it been for you to balance stuff? I think that's one of the most crucial things overall. Like, I mean, you're a father, you are now the CEO of Comix Wellspring. You have your own businesses on the side as well. You have a military background, you have all this stuff that's been going around you. You're a creator yourself. Like, how do you just approach balance before we get into anything else today?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a learning curve and it takes a lot of trial and error and time, and you'll never get it on point until, I hear until like your kids are off in college and stuff, and then you kind of finally create some consistency in your scheduling. I think that's the number one thing. I always base it off of I've always been busy, obviously. Like right from the military, it kind of wired me that way, to work around the clock and like get up before everyone else, stay up and work the hardest. And so that was always embedded into me. And in the military, that kind of like really, I think, brought that out in me. I was under a lot of pressure in my positions. I was always in executive administrative roles, so always working for the big cheese, which was always so much pressure. So I feel like that gave me the grit and maybe the perseverance and stuff like that, just to kind of I guess the precursor to get me ready for a lot more that life was going to throw at me. Um, but then when I got out of the military, I guess that never stopped. I mean, I started going to college. College was way too slow for me, so I started a business, and that kind of like turned into, what's the next thing? Create another business, keep going, do more, figure it out. And yeah, so I turned away from traditional education and just kind of tread my own path. And yeah, but what really helped me was like I just said. I mean, waking up at the crack of dawn, getting some sort of routine in my life helps. And just like any other creator, just like going off into the clouds somewhere and not doing anything and just kind of like putting it on autopilot, that helps me a ton. So right now, for instance, I drive downstate to the offices, and that's a 3.5, 4 hour drive for me. And I do that back and forth every week. Not every day, but like once a week. And those drives, actually, my wife's like, it's got to be so hard in the travel. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, it's not, because you're there 3.5 hours. You can't do much other than think and process stuff and like mull over ideas and refine things and lot lately. Now it's a lot of phone calls, but majority of the time it's like listen to audiobooks, anything that's like enriching my mind, my creativity. So that helps a lot. But also waking up early. Once upon a time, like 6 months ago, I was waking up to go to the gym at 4 a.m. So that really helped. Obviously, lately with the kids and stuff, it's been really hard. But I found like getting a routine of that, getting up and working out and just taking care of myself for the first half hour, that helps set the pace for the day. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of been my routine that kind of helped me structure my life. Having a lot of good people around me, like yourself and Mel, and a lot of people that are taking a lot of those responsibilities that I took on at the beginning of this when I first started working with Greco and Comixwell Spring. but now delegating, that's really helped again, structure some sort of like, I don't know, I guess, I don't know, like some sort of consistency in my
Mhm.
day to day. So I know I don't have to worry about the same things I did months and months ago. Rather, I could just pour into other people and they're doing it, for the team itself. So that's kind of where I've, my journey in a
Yeah.
nutshell, and kind of where my scheduling and how I can process everything. It's definitely, there's no clean cut answer to how I juggle stuff, but it's kind of just like a
Well,
fight. You're just kind of rolling with the punches and doing what you can to set in systems.
yeah, it's, kind of what you said right there in the beginning. You've kind of been in life training this whole time. It seems like
Yeah.
all these opportunities that you've had in your earlier life, with the military and how it, kind of it became embedded with you. I don't think, for people to handle like the big cheese in any company, in any corporation, that takes a lot of like patience, a lot of understanding, a lot of, dividing who you are as a person to a certain extent. There's the business side, and then there's like, the friendly family side as well. And as much as we try to combine those two, you do have to be very concrete and distinct, when you're trying to approach and build a business and build success and
Yeah.
build a team, but also like maintaining, leaving some of that at work and maintaining a family and balancing that and cherishing those moments with, family just overall. You really
Yeah.
can't take away from that. And I mean, no matter how crazy and hectic things are, it sounds like you even found a way to like still give yourself a slice of zen throughout all the
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah, I think it just became a breaking point. I'll be totally honest. I was never like that. Like, I've always prioritized like getting the job done, working hard, and like really, just constantly grinding as much as I can, to do the next thing. Maybe it's an interpersonal thing, but it's always been something that, that's I've always been driven. I feel like that, and lately, since I've kind of turned, we've accomplished so much, and even though we have still some mountains to climb, lately though, I have been finding that I'm better at what I do in execution decision making when I actually have that fine line between family and work and stuff like that. Even though it's really hard to turn that off, because I do love what we do and I do love the business and I love the content, around the business. It's hard to, as a creative, it's hard to turn those kind of things off. You get an idea when you're having dinner with your family or something like that. But as of lately, I've definitely kind of, I think, poured a lot of time and effort into mental effort into like really creating that fine line. I think as my boys get older, they really make it easier for me to do that. Uh, and moving up where I live, like just really being appreciative of what I have and where I'm at. I think that helps too. Uh, Kind of give me perspective of creating that boundaries.
Hmm.
Uh, but again, I think they benefit each other in the long run, having that. So
I
yeah, it's
mean,
been,
boundaries are so vital in every essence of like any part of life, any facet of life.
yeah,
You really need to establish boundaries. And a lot of people feel bad or guilty when they establish a boundary because it's
oh
really to
yeah,
protect them and themselves. And sometimes it might affect or hurt the person that they're creating the boundary from because, everyone functions differently. We all have a certain bandwidth. Sometimes some of us just need to take a step away. And, creating that boundary is really just to help you be more successful in the long run.
yeah,
Um,
precisely. Yep,
and it's
absolutely.
all positivity, and, more people start to understand that, I think, as they get older. I think more
Yeah,
like when you're younger, it just doesn't make sense. You're like, "Just deal with
yeah,
it, put up with stuff."
yeah,
But
for
sometimes
sure.
that doesn't equate. I mean, it's like what you're saying too. I mean, luckily, we're both in a really cool position. I mean, and it's not to, like, flaunt or anything, but it's one of the things where we kinda have our dream job, and, we're working every day for this awesome, like, the company and the purpose of Comics Wellspring and the
Mhm.
opportunities it's brought us. And so we get very encompassed in it. And figuring out our own personal boundary between our work and our passion and how hard we kind of work to get to the position we're
Yeah,
at, it's hard to create that line and be definitive about it and not be obsessed with everything 24/7. There's
yeah,
times where it's, I mean, you were getting messages from me like at 9 at night last night and emails. And it's it's one of those things where it's
yeah,
like, well, I finally got to it. I had the bandwidth open up and I needed to attack this, task. and it's because I passionately want to.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult and rare for somebody to find that type of job. And it didn't make sense to me before. It wasn't until I started talking and like, we have meetings with all of our contractors, meetings with the team, and the amount of care and passion that goes into what we're doing and what we do at Comics Wellspring, I've never felt before,
Right.
ever, in any
Yeah.
position. It's a
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, no,
So
I agree. And you know what's beautiful about the business in itself? Like, I mean, our team, they're all driven. I always love, again, I'm going to put my entrepreneur hat on and say, I told this to the team last week. I mean, it's a blessing when you have a business and you own a business or you lead a business. It's a blessing to have like team members and employees that are like staying up late night pacing. It's kind of selfish in a sense to say that, but like it really is. If you don't have partners and like equal investors in terms of like sweat equity investors like pacing back and forth how to solve a problem, then like those people are the people you want around in your team. Those are the people that are going to like come to the table with solutions or help like refine ideas and like really pour a lot of dedication and real authentic like perseverance and thought and effort into the business in itself. And that's what we have here. So, I mean, it's just now we have the pieces, the components. It's just now really kind of like building it, restructuring it, and building it up. And that's kind of where we're at this stage, for sure. And yeah, leading it has been an insane blessing. I mean, it's incredible. And I got to be honest, I am like kind of a chaos seeker. I feel I found that out over the last after I got, I just, I'm mid 30s. So like when I turned 30, I realized after I sold my first business that like I don't like when it's too consistent. I
yeah.
like the chaos. I feel like I thrive better when the odds are stacked against me big time. And I mean, my history, my track record always has definitely showed that as well. Like it's always my wife says it all the time. Like if you can't sit still, you can't stay consistent. You gotta like always like have some sort of mountain to climb.
Hmm.
Uh, which is also great because our new partners with Carta is the same way. So there's the same mindset. So it's cool. I see everything working out and like structuring properly. The same, I guess, the same ethos and the same personalities coming together that are relentless in solving problems for something so beautiful that we have right in front of us. This business, CWS. So it's really cool.
And like that's the whole thing with life too. Like you kind of need that mountain to climb to really find
Yeah,
yourself, to really see what you're made of. And
want to
I mean,
grow.
part of growing, and
Yeah,
that's a big part of, I feel like, where CWS is at right now. Like we are, you know we're in growing pains. We've encountered so much, we've built up so much. You get to a spot, you feel successful, you feel on top of the world, and sometimes you just kind of got to get kicked and humbled, and then
yeah,
to kind of also realize what you have in your hands and what you're doing. And it kind of, in a big sense, this mountain that we're trying to overcome right now with, CWS, and we'll get into that a little bit as well. But, overcoming this mountain and, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, once we do start seeing a light,
yeah,
it's going to be very, very exciting because there's nothing but passion being driven into it right now. We're all just kind of going up it, and we expect to come out on top and flourishing and grown and, ready to take on new adventures and new, troubles and new, just crazy encounters. But like the growing pains are one of the hardest parts. And I feel like that's where maybe you could even, counter this a
yeah,
little bit as well. But I feel like a lot of businesses will just straight up fail at growing
yeah.
pains.
Well,
They'll
I
hit
mean,
a
I think,
spot and they can't
yeah,
move forward.
yeah, 100%. I mean, statistics, they're evident, like I don't know what the numbers are, but I know a really high percentage of small businesses that hit some sort of inflection point and usually generally fail if they
Hmm.
don't fail off rip. Yeah, there comes a time where you're growing that you hit a crossroads, you got to make the right decisions. I guess not necessarily the right or wrong decisions. There's either succeed or fail, but succeed even has sub like avenues to go walk. You can either go this way or that way, if you're aiming to succeed. And I feel like we hit those at Greco, and that's what's transpired into the situation we're in now.
Mhm.
So we definitely, growing pains is perfect. That's a perfect word. I mean, we were facing those early on, and then we hit something of a, I guess, kind of an inflection point where the the marketing engine and the business was getting too much business for where we were.
Mhm.
And it's easy when you're in tech to transition and like overhaul and expand and scale. But when you're in manufacturing and you have, machines and tons of people and a lot of let it, and you need a lot of space, and you need more
Mhm.
space and more capital. Like that's when it gets really intense. And I can't say I can't say it enough though, but like we weren't on our end, we weren't prepared, and I'm the customer obviously wasn't prepared because we weren't prepared, but it had to happen. It was almost to the point where it was like, and I'm not trying to place blame on the old owners, but like it was at a point where they had to make a decision. They should have made a decision sooner, but I get it. When you love what you've created so closely, it's hard to let go. But if you hold on to it too long, obviously it's at the expense of all the stakeholders and like and the teams and the people who are really counting on it to work efficiently. So we hit that point, and just like any small business, it's you either keep swinging and keep trying, or you fail, or you walk away and you fail. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I went through so many emotional roller coasters the last couple of months because one day I wake up and feel like shit. Like, are we failing? Are we not doing this? What am I making the right decisions? Am I making the wrong decisions? And down to the specifics and details, you're just kind of thinking these things over. So, I mean, obviously, from the top down, leadership and the employee themselves will all have to make these minute decisions day by day that actually equate to the bigger decision of what the company is doing or the business is doing to survive. And you know in response to what, where we came from, where I feel like the number one goal for us right now is communications and transparency, and I mean within our walls and to the customer. So I mean, and that's where a lot of companies probably fail, is due to the lack of like really reaching out to the customer, reaching out to the teammates, and figuring it all out together. Or like some of the top down leadership wanting to hold on to everything and trying to solve all the problems themselves. I
Yep.
feel like that really kind of collapses it. And with us, the transition, not only the overhaul and the move was hard, it was a lot of infrastructural things that really needed to be revisited for scale. We were
Mhm.
not like we were not ready for scale, even though the market and the customer base, everything was screaming for us to do that. Uh, we were left with that decision, and it was up to the owners at the time to make that decision of what they needed to do, and they deemed it was best. I think a little late in the game, but they thought it was best. This opportunity landed on their laps to really make that decision to let it go. It's better if put it in someone else's hands that can, with maybe more experience, that could really help rebuild and restructure. Obviously, with that comes hardships and casualties and stuff like that, I guess you can quote it as growing pains. But yeah, so that's my take on that. It's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy to scale, like as you would think back, when I first started my first business, the idea of like, yeah, I'll just make more money, get more business, keep the business coming in and more jobs and more, without thinking like, yeah, but everything else has to scale along with it. I
Yeah.
mean, infrastructure, people, things, machines, whatever you're doing to produce the product or service. So, uh,
We kinda
yeah,
went from, like, a box to, like, a a warehouse. You know what I mean? It's one of those
Yeah,
things. Like, and our clientele made that same jump. We didn't go from like, you know, it didn't all of a sudden just happen overnight. Like our scaling, for companies and for like people choosing to do business with us was growing, and it's been growing. And I think that's what's been so crazy too, is that we had a general idea when we started this move. And then we are just like, we could try our best to be consistent. We're going to be a little late, but then as month by month you're growing in orders, you're realizing that like, okay, we had a plan, but now we're having to change the plan every week to accommodate for all the new changes happening. It's
yeah,
so positive. Comics Wellspring starts blowing up and we start getting more business. But like you're saying, we can't just bring someone in like tech wise and be like, all right, here's your computer. This is your login. You can set up and go. Let me know if you have any questions. You have 4 people here to support you.
yeah.
It's literally like 1 to 2 people in every department. I
It's
want to say.
literally like it's like we're Captain America. Like we have all the heart, our brand and marketing. We have all this heart and like selflessness and like really dedication. All we
Mhm.
need is that. All that we need is that juice, that boost, that
Yeah.
to pack on the muscle and really meet the needs and meet the hot level of our passion and heart with what we do. So yeah, I mean, I definitely it's definitely going to be, it's still, we're in it, we're in it right now. And we're still trying to work everything out. But I definitely think there's one thing that has not been shaken, and that's our dedication, our heart in it. I mean, when we talk about in our marketing and branding and stuff, like how passionate we are for comic books, like quite literally everyone on our team is like big time. I mean, everyone knows Pam. She
Mhm.
literally goes out of her way to buy comic books from customers, even though she can literally grab one off the machine. But she buys them out of because she loves the entertainment. She loves the freedom of creativity. I mean, our two new pre-press individuals, they're both they both have created graphic novels.
Mhm.
I mean, Brian, he's our graphic artist. He's he owned a comic book shop. Everyone's got some sort of, me, like
Mhm.
we definitely all have some sort of spark in us that really keeps keeps the ambition alive in what we're doing here. We know we play a pivotal role in the creator's success, so it's our duty to like figure these things out. So that's definitely one amazing thing we're doing, and we're really leaning into with the brand. Now it's just like I just said, we just need to get that juice going, and that's harder. I mean, it's literally the lab scientists in the lab trying to create the crazy formula that's gonna, you know, turn them into Captain America. It's
Mhm.
like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like we're still trying to figure out what that formula is. And I think it's just right to be honest about that. We're not perfect. We're not a giant corporation. We don't maneuver quick and pivot quick. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're very limited too. Uh, Although we're niched, we're up the bat against large corporations,
Mhm.
competitors. Every competitor that anyone else has used is, besides the small printer down the street, like everyone else is just astronomically larger than us. They can
Yeah.
they can do things that we can't do, that we're trying to do. But there's one thing they lack, and that we have, is that our literal dedication and commitment to the craft itself and the love for comics itself, and our community. Like we have so many personal relationships with so many people in our community. I think all that in itself is enough juice to really look at our predicament and say it's worth investing into. It's worth, you know it's worth investing into the machines and the people and the time and the
Mhm.
effort and the quality and all that stuff to meet those things. So that's uh that's what's interesting about our situation right now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that was the key thing when we started having conversations as well, is that, there was a want from you specifically, wanting to be able to stay connected with the comic book community, and you being like, the business owner you are, the entrepreneur you were like, I could bring in, 5 people, 3 people from that have marketing experience across the board. I could bring in people who have this experience across
Right.
the board. or I could bring in the community because they know, and they know the nitty gritty, and they know the tea within the community, and they know, what it's like. And, a lot of like the stuff that's happened the past few months has even affected me as a creator. I'm part of that big boat of everyone who's been
Yeah,
affected. And
right.
I kind of cherish that as well because, I've been in various management positions. I've done so much, and I've always like starting from the bottom as a grunt to kind of like work my way up, because then you get to really see what they're going through. And when you
Yeah,
understand what they're going through and you make big decisions up top, you make them with like the confidence of being like, I know that sucked. Like, I know how
yeah,
hard that was,
right, right,
that to
yeah,
work on it together. I don't want to, nobody wants to leave anyone
yeah,
sinking. So we
yeah.
kind of encourage that. And so we could really speak to our customer better than any other printing company can actually speak towards as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many marketing teams, and like they're, majority of them is like part of the goal for marketing is to really find the most relatability and relatable, yeah, like way of mannerisms and the way that tone and all that stuff as your target audience or your customer. And it's like
Mhm.
with us, yeah, and I've always thought this in my head, like, yeah, when it comes to like something so like creative like this, yeah, I mean, there is no you'll see our competitors, like they'll just basically be throwing out a ton of ads that your generic stuff like quality printing and social proofing and stuff like that, which is good in marketing. But like I always thought like it'd be best to like have the infrastructural team be the customer, and so they can literally naturally, they don't have to go do research, they can naturally start speaking about problem solutions from a perspective of both the business, but also more importantly, from the customer standpoint, the
Yep.
creator. So I think that's what we're doing very well. It's just now it's just a matter of like putting the muscle behind the people that are pushing it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it is interesting though. It's an interesting take. As you said, like I had that opportunity to figure out if I'm going to rebuild this team, I could hire a bunch of pros out there, quote unquote, and they'd come in and do their thing. And I mean, would that make us any different? It would,
I mean, what's
it wouldn't.
better, passion or experience,
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the
And
passion's
from my
gonna get us all to
experience,
learn.
yeah, and from my experience, it's all about passion, especially now. I mean, everyone could have there's so many people that have experience, and everyone knows ABC to marketing, but
Mhm.
and branding and business and stuff. But when you get like the people who actually like really care like super deeply about the content itself, uh I think it's easier to teach them the tactics and
Mhm.
the blueprints rather than vice versa. Try to teach someone how to love something rather than, you know. So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we got the love, the passion and stuff. Now it's just really just putting the tactics and uh, the things to work that have to work in terms of business and scalability and stuff like that.
Because comics also, like, you're not only just learning, a new side of business. It's not just e-commerce, and it's just not just marketing. It's like we're making comic books, and actually comic books are really difficult to make. The more you
Oh yeah.
start, like,
Well,
at first it's just like,
manufacturing. I mean,
yeah.
manufacturing's hard, and there is never a scenario where manufacturing is 100% perfect.
Mhm.
Like every manufacturer, there's a lot. First off, there's a lot of overhead, a lot of liability, a lot of room for error, especially when it's multi-part, like something like a premium comic book that has foil and UV gloss and everything added creates another opportunity for error.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, it's definitely the big part about it is yeah, that we are manufacturing, and that is challenging. It's so challenging, especially, and I tell this to the partners at Carta, like, especially as our product, what we do for creators, like they're reselling it. And I've always said this to everyone. I think I even told you, like, and you knew this, like, it's just I look at us as a B2B. I definitely don't
Yeah.
look at us as a direct to consumer. I mean, so like I want to treat our customers like businesses. I mean, that
Mhm.
means the product that we deliver to them, they got to resell, obviously. So like every single little detail matters. And that should be baked into our given, right? Like that's a given. Like,
Mhm.
but now we're at the point where it's like, yeah, but we're in manufacturing, so getting everything to look perfect all the time is definitely a Rubik's cube, and we're definitely working on it, and we're good at it, but also trying to mitigate, waste. I mean, that was
Yeah.
one thing I think our community should know. Like at one point we were knocking out stuff and we had obviously double the team, double the machines, but they were all at that time to get everything perfect all the time. There's a lot of waste. So now trying to like not waste half of the team, half of the machines, half of the team, half of the machines, and like really try to like cut on waste and time and stuff. That's definitely going to take some time and skill and really attention to detail for sure.
Well, that's something that you also noticed once you became CEO too, was
Yeah.
you got the blueprints and the maps to everything, all the secret, documentation and information, and you kinda looked at it and was like, I'm basically restarting from scratch. Like,
Yeah,
you
kind of,
basically just
yeah.
got, like, a broken house, and then they were just like,
Yeah.
"Well, go live in that." And then
Yeah,
they're just like,
well,
"It
yeah,
looks
and
really great in the
yeah,
ad," but,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
you ended
and
up
to
going in
shine
like
some light on that, that is it really is that, and I didn't wanna go ham yet, but, like, to shine some light on that, it was like that. I mean, first off, when we were at Greco, like, we were already behind, and I'm not scared to
Mm,
say that, like, we were already we were hitting that inflection point at Greco.
mhm,
So Greco was in a predicament. They had to make a choice, like, it's either find a new facility, scale up, give this a capital injection, and really try to meet the need and scale. Or the other part was figure out how to sell it to like a bigger company or someone who can take this on and scale it and stuff. The problem was though, that is a slow that's a slow go kind of
mhm.
decision and maneuver and stuff like
Yep.
that. And it should have been quicker than it was, but it was still drawn out because you're up against a market, first off. Like the guys at Greco, they were looking for a new building. It was insane. It was the pinnacle of like commercial real estate. Like things were insanely high. It was hard to find something. Uh, and then with that, you got to consider all your employees have to drive to a different location. So you got to
Yeah.
find it. You're very restricted. That was a huge first component. Um,
'Cause
and
I'm
then,
I'm probably, like, the only aside from, I guess, you in a sense, I'm, like, the only remote employee essentially for
yeah,
CWS because of my position and whatnot. So everyone is making this new commute. Everyone's making
yeah,
this drive in
yeah, which
Michigan,
was
you know?
that's a whole nother piece of this conversation is the chapter of like migrating everything over was hard to say the least. But at this stage, like they were just trying to find a new place. They knew they needed to scale. I mean, we all knew it.
Mhm.
But scale properly. Obviously, you don't. No one here has millions of dollars to just be like, okay, I'll just buy a bunch of machines, new building, and ton of people, and just hope for the best. I wish
Weekend
that
it
was,
over, have somebody else set it up, get a
yeah,
hired a
right,
company, set up
yeah,
all the
right,
machines. That way we
yeah,
walk in Monday being like, "Alright, back to work," you know? Like,
yeah,
no, it was not the
yeah.
case at all.
Yeah, so, like, it was to a point that obviously we were falling behind. The guys were, like, really trying to figure this out. I mean, we were kind of, me and the other 2, and the 2 owners at the time were just like, we have limited options. We just gotta keep boasting the brand, maybe getting the attention of, some competitors or something to just come and inquire, and, but, obviously, that was, like, pipe dream, at that point
Mhm.
because we were so focused on fulfilling orders too, so it wasn't really like we can focus on one thing. So
And just for
but
some, like, insight real fast, like, how many orders estimated, of course, like, per day or per month or per week does CWS get or was getting currently
I
getting?
mean it's hundreds. I mean, like, it's like 400 or 500. I mean, but that keep in mind one order could be 25 prints, but the
Mhm.
next order could be 5,000 prints of variant covers and foils and stuff like that. that is insane. Like that's a huge order. It's not like they're all
It's not
every
just
order the
floppy
same.
comics, single
Yeah,
issues, there's so many,
yeah.
like you said, you're catering to specific businesses with
Yeah,
specific
tens and tens of
needs.
thousands of comics being printed every month, like, it varies. It could be 100,000, could be, it could be 50,000. There's not We have some data, but it's so hard to tell, but,
Mhm.
yeah, but we increased. So, I guess the contextual point is really, if you're looking back in 2022, we doubled up. So, like, we were,
Mhm.
like, doing work, and then we doubled the amount of work, doubled the demand, and so without, like, really doubling everything else. Like, we were like, Greco had, people doing other things that we had to basically pull everyone to start doing comics. So our team technically delivering on comics we're pretty robust. We had more than enough machines, but it was still growing, and we wanted it to keep growing, obviously. But we just couldn't. We couldn't meet that demand, especially when we hit pinnacle times, like around like September and like con season, all that stuff. Then you really felt it. You really felt customers would want lightning rush like a week before the con. So very, very open, a lot of room for error there.
Mhm.
So that was happening a lot. We couldn't figure that out. So basically, yeah, they were looking for a new building. They couldn't figure out the building. And honestly, it was a blessing from out of nowhere that the owner of Carta Finishing, was friends with Tony, the owner of Greco, and they just got in a conversation. And honestly, it was like at the worst part, we were behind, we were trying to figure it out, and they got in a conversation, and he was like, yeah, I don't mind. I would love to take that off your hands and kind of figure this out. So, obviously, I don't know how that conversation went down, but I'm figuring it's something like that. But yeah, so yeah, he took it, and I was notified like immediate, and we had to act fast, obviously,
Mhm.
because the other part of the caveat to all this is like we're ecom. Orders do not stop. There is no pause. There's no slow down. It's dictated by
It's not
the
just
market.
office hours, can you place an order or,
Right.
like, do
It's
anything.
dictated by the marketplace. It's dictated by, what's going on in the
Conventions.
industry. Yeah, in the industry and yeah, and our how we can our working hours, and compared to, what the demand is. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and once that happened, I got notified, and they want to be obviously baked into the deal. So, but that was like really fast. Like we have to do it quick. Obviously, the moving like machines and people and well, moving machines and talking to people
Mhm.
and having them subscribe to this idea of moving and they were all beaten down already. I got to be transparent about that. Like all our staff, because it was such a battle at that last 6 to 8 months at Greco, it was such a battle because we knew that we were falling behind. We knew it was tough. We knew we had to do something. We knew we had to scale. I mean, we put our team in overdrive already, and they were seeing this backlash. They were seeing like, oh, late on delivery. Like Pam doesn't want to tell someone she's nurtured a relationship for 8 years that we're gonna be late on their order. Like it
Yeah.
drives her crazy. She always gets on me about this. Like, yeah, it's hard. I know, and it's hard to tell someone that you've nurtured such a good relationship with it. Say like, yeah, I know your cons this week, but we may or may not make it. And it's like that's like got to be the hardest stab in the heart
Yeah.
as someone like Pam. So that was already kind of happening. So we knew the urgency was there, like the urgency. Everyone knew it. It was kind of putting everyone on edge, and it was making the environment kind of rough and tough, and it was just putting a lot of toll on all of us.
Mhm.
However, we saw the future. I tried to instill a vision for where we were going with this opportunity. I knew for a fact it was not going to be easy, and it's not easy, as I predicted. I mean, anyone could have predicted, but It's definitely, it wasn't easy. I knew I had to get those core people over, but with this deal came half of the machines, a fraction of the employees, and a very quick transition
Mhm.
while still operating, with a lot of intricacies that I don't want to talk about, but like a lot of details that were strugglesome, that really
Mhm.
delayed stuff, really made things difficult and challenging to keep the business moving while we are doing this. Uh, I mean, if anyone's out there and in the community has ever dealt with an acquisition or some sort of sale of a business, it gets hairy and it's tough, and it literally impedes production. It impedes a lot of stuff. So we were facing that. So we knew that we had to get out to where we were, but B, it was going to be a rough ride. And it really was, especially at the beginning, because there was a bunch of who knows?
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
we're trying. We want this to survive. We know it's needed in the industry. It's know that we already have built something. It's already in existence and it's already doing such good things. We can't let it slip by. Um, so yeah, when we were getting ready to switch over, it was a sequence of events that had to, at first I had to sit down with every core member that was I wanted to take with me. um,
Mhm.
I mean, some of them, it's a 45-minute drive. I mean, they're living down the street, 10-minute drive to work back and forth, and then tell them, yeah, it's gonna be an hour ride, to
Yeah.
work when it's not traffic because it's straight to north of Detroit. So it's like the worst drive. And
Yeah.
it's like, how do you know, passion can only get you so far. So like you have to, as a leader, you have to find a way how, and these people were core. We could not have survived without some of the people. So like obviously I mentioned Pam and Mel, like
Mhm.
everyone knows them, and just people like them, we couldn't have survived without them. They needed to
No
be
way.
part of this whole thing. So like to really get them subscribed to the idea, that was my first tackle. That was my first wrestling match, basically, was just trying to get them on board, get them over there, because they were so pivotal in this. And then figuring out the machines, the move. We had to move machines, but also still deliver jobs. So Greco was using their machines. We moved the machines over. We were trying to get up and running. But again, we had half the machines, half the people when we got started at Carta. Uh, we're still kind of like our desks are all over the place. We're trying to like bring organization, but like all that just had to be slapped over there and kept running, kept running.
Yep.
Also, we didn't have a night shift. We didn't
Right.
have a night shift come over. So we had one production guy
That
basically.
didn't
And
start till what, May? Mid-May, I
yeah,
wanna say we
it was
found
like,
night shift people.
yeah, April sometime. Yeah. But that was even tough. I mean, because a lot of people kind of just they didn't want, either they wanted to be part of CWS or and found out like I can't do that. I can't do that drive. Uh, we got to get paid more. It's a lot of that thing. So I had to consider a lot of different things. Right off rip, at our first decision was about the team. You know, I said it's like the airplane. When the airplane's going down, obviously you got to put your mask on, before you put your child or the person next to your mask. So it's like same goes with us. I had to put our mask on and I'm still trying to fixate our mask, but also still trying to do the customer's mask right next
Yep.
to us. So, but it's important that we do, because we got to get our feet on the ground. We got to get traction. We got to figure out our situation. And I knew that the team was the most important component of that. So yeah, we moved everyone over, and that was a journey in itself. And then our when we got everyone situated, there was still like lagging things that needed to be closed. These story loops that were connected with Greco. We were using their server, so there was like a database thing we had to switch over. That was pretty hard, but Carta wasn't like ready for like this pace that we brought. Obviously they are now, but like it was shocking, I feel like, to everyone of the climate. I mean, just like moving to a new school when you're a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's so shocking. new faces, new processes, new agendas and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we had to face. And with all that being said, that obviously had some sort of causation and like production and getting jobs through and like keeping people from not burning out, which was like the hardest thing and still is the hardest thing. You
Mhm.
don't want people to burn out. So yeah, so when we moved over though, it was you know we saw the light. We definitely still see the light, and we saw the light, and we knew that we just need to work out A, B, C, and D. And
Mhm.
once we get through these things, then yeah, and some people will be mad at us, some customers, and we will have casualties. It's just like that's kind of the way it is. It's like if we didn't, if we had the option to not like screw up anyone's orders or be late or
Yeah.
delay, like of course we would do whatever we could to do. It was just inevitable to face these kind of things. But the good side of this is that you know now we all know the specific problems, we all know the specific weak points, we all know what we have to do, and we all know the process of doing it. It's just a matter of like executing every step and taking baby steps along the way to put processes, systems, machines, people, everything in place, really set us up infrastructurally down to the
Mhm.
core to so we build up and then be like positioned to scale. That's kind of my mindset, and you know, and that's where we're at now in a sense. It's just I bought a new machine, I got a night shift, I brought on two more people, or a lot more people.
Yeah.
I really injected it back into um, where we not so much of where we were, but like at least we have a lot more muscle behind us. Now it's just fixing a lot of these intricate problems that I'm seeing in each stage of the process. And that's kind of where we're examining now. Um, and we've all come together. I mean, you guys, marketing, my marketing team is all supported customer service now. We're really
Mhm.
trying to find this symbiosis and just everyone kind of can put on each other's hats and support each other. I mean, I really wanted a family like setting for our culture. So I feel like what better way to bond with like your like the people that you work with than to go through trauma. I mean, like
Yeah. Yeah.
they say like
Yep.
the best relation. I mean, some of the strongest relationships were built on first off of trauma, shared trauma. And I feel like I joke about it, but it's true. I mean, we get through this and we start building success and getting back on track. Like there's a story to be told within
Yeah.
each of us that has some sort of shared transformation, and I think there's no better compelling story than that. So it's a beautiful thing for sure. But it's been a rocky road to say the least, and it still is.
So, I mean, before we get into some of the more exciting like things that we have planned to like really kind of reveal what we've been doing in the background to
Yeah,
alleviate some of these issues and really fix them. I mean, in hindsight, what would you have done differently, the past, I guess, 3 months, March to, pretty much June, or really it seemed like to the community where things fell apart. And, this backtracks
yeah,
6, 8
yeah,
months
hundred
beyond
percent.
that,
Yeah,
but the move is really, and I
yeah,
think it's hard to process for some people. It's just that, you have 6 of 8 months of you don't realize what's going on in the background. And then we get the opportunity to jump and we know that's going to be the best choice. It's the hardest choice, but we made the hardest choice for a
yeah.
better future.
Yeah, I mean,
But it was rocky.
if we would have got acquired by a printer that was like already printing books and like stuff like that, that would have been a different situation, right?
Yeah.
But we were already behind. We had this move, which again, it's an immense amount of work and stuff that's prioritized
Because you
differently.
shrunk and you lost so much, but
Yeah,
like the company was growing. It
yeah, yeah.
flourishing probably,
Yeah,
you
we
know what I
kinda
mean?
did this weird. I mean, I there's so many more different avenues that could have happened that probably would have worked out better, uh, if things lined up properly. Again, though, it's almost like things move so fast, You have lightning quick decision making to do. I mean, of course, if I owned it from the get go, like, I mean, if I can't speak onto the old owners on like where they stood on where they wanted this. I just don't feel like maybe it's like you have to have an owner that's passionate about the craft in itself to make these kind of decisions. Maybe they didn't want a part of it anymore. Maybe it was too much. Maybe the growth was too much. I don't know, but I know from the get go, I probably if things I would have done different. I mean, I probably would have geared everyone if I would have known the full narrative to what was going down and all the details and from the very beginning. I probably
A
would have
lot was revealed post acquisition. A
yeah,
lot.
so I would have poured a lot more time and effort into prepping the community and honestly just prepping the stakeholders in the fact of like we're going to take a huge hit here and that's fine. We'll bounce back as long as we stick to our core values. Uh but taking the huge hit and the one thing about entrepreneurs and owners, they don't want that. They don't want to take that huge hit. They don't want to because it's like they want to keep seeing numbers, either stay comfortably or grow, right? So it's like it's
Mhm,
hard for owners and stakeholders and investors and all that stuff to like know that sometimes you have to take a step back to reacclimate and readjust yourself to move to pivot or to move forward with even more force, right?
mhm.
For more momentum. So I felt like maybe some of the things we're like frantically trying to do now or the last couple of weeks should have been done, last year, honestly, or like 8 months
Yeah.
ago. But who can predict these kind of things? You do
It's
honestly, we don't.
life.
Right,
How do you predict
exactly. You
life,
can't
you
predict
know?
the things. I feel like examining again, I'm also learning on how to be the best leader, not just be a leader in general, but to be the best leader for this specific situation, for this specific brand and the specific team. And that in itself is a learning curve for sure. And part of that is this this notion of like take off your entrepreneur owner hat and put on like a father hat or like a family member hat and say sometimes like the hardest truths, are definitely going to be better in the long run for you guys if you just can
Mhm,
work those out and be transparent on. And I feel like maybe we could have done that better at the get go, of course, to just really be open and let everyone solve these problems with an open mind. And know that financially we're gonna take a hit. We're gonna take a hit. We took one anyway, so it's like we're gonna take a hit and just restructure it, refocus, and do it better, and set yourself up properly. But again, in the situation, it's like a dogfight. You don't know when the next swing is coming. You don't know what next move you got to do. I mean, you're gonna make that's gonna be best for the long term and the short term. So we did what we did, and basically we're just piecing everything back together. Uh, I I know some customers that have been long customers have left us, but I know for sure in my heart that with the team that we have now and the dedication for Resolve is we're going to win the hearts and souls hearts and creativity back
mhm.
from a lot of our community. We're going to because not only do we know what the importance of the quality and speed and turnaround and what the positioning is for of the creator, the business owner themselves. It's just we have a bigger mission in mind. I mean, we want to see this industry grow. We want to see more people create comic books. I mean, that's a personal mission too. I
Yeah,
mean,
100%.
I know so many people who I mean myself, I have so many comic books in my head, right? And I just know it that I want to bring them to life. I want to do this, but there's a lot of hurdles, a lot of things in the way, of course. But relating that to like our customer base and potential customer base, like seeing this industry flourish how it is, and then being saying that you are a piece of a brand that can really help bring that to the next level is something something so extraordinary. So I mean, it's definitely there. Um, I know I kind of veered away from, I
No,
think,
no,
the topic, but
that's great because it's like, we had so much is happening at once. And we're, at the beginning of the conversation, we're talking about balance. Like, how do
yeah,
you balance, life, family, work, projects, businesses, and then still be able to like, put that in a PR package and deliver it to the
right,
community? You know what I mean? Like
right,
by the
right,
time
yeah,
I feel like so many people will relate in the sense of like, every Monday, for example, I start work. If I do start work on a Monday, typically it's a Sunday, but if I start
right,
my week
right.
off,
I know.
it's I write a list, and my Monday list, I'm like, okay, this is everything I want to accomplish today. And at the end of the day, I've either accomplished nothing on that list because so much has popped up by the time I start
You
work
got
and the
another
end of the
list?
day. Yeah, I have another list. And that Monday list turns into my week list,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everything I thought up of on Monday, it takes me that whole week to execute.
yep,
And those are lessons you learn as you do stuff and as you restructure. I mean, for example, I mean, just in general, at the beginning of April, I moved into a new place and everybody was like, "Oh man, one of the hardest things you could do in life is, moving into a new house and, all this stuff, everything that comes with it, the stress, the, adjusting to a new place to sleep and, unpacking and repacking your stuff, dealing with the animals and, some people in some instances kids." People are talking
yeah,
about that about me moving 2 blocks up the street from where I was at. And I mean, imagine that stress and all of that you just talked about for an entire company that we
yeah,
just did. Those are things you don't really take in mind or reflect on until after it's happened, where it's like, you know what, we did just do one of the craziest, hardest things in life, and that was moving and
yeah,
readjusting. And, and we affected what, 15 people's lives just right off the bat, because
yeah,
that's about the
immediately.
size of our crew.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it's difficult. And we would, have conversations before I became, officially part of the team, full time. And it was just one of those things. We're just brainstorming and seeing how we could tackle it. But like, there's only so many hours in the day.
yeah,
So many people are reaching out. So many people are, we have so much on our minds that we're trying to accomplish. We just did it piece by piece as we could.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
difficult, and this is
it
why we
is.
have this episode, is to
Yeah,
really come forward and be like, "I know it's been a crazy couple of months, but, like, in relatively 3, 4, 6 months of a business kinda struggling
yeah,
versus years of a bright future that we're planning ahead of us," it's
yes,
like,
yeah,
that's the growing pain we're talking about,
yeah,
you know?
100%, and I am totally, I'm accepting, and, the owners, they, that's kinda my job, like, I just gotta, I'm accepting the fact that, yeah, we're gonna have to take a step back, fix things, and do things right if we wanna take 5 steps forward.
Looking for high quality printing, fast turnaround, and the industry's best customer service? Look no further than Comix Wellspring. Trusted by thousands of indie comic creators, Comix Wellspring is proven to be the go to comic book printer. So when you're ready to bring your comic books to life, go to comicswellspring.com and be sure to check out one of the best platforms to sell your physical and digital comics online, the CWS Bookstore. Remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell to see our lives come out twice every single week on YouTube and podcast platforms. And also tag us when you share your favorite episodes and moments from the show. And remember, creators, thanks for hanging, keep creating, and stay inspired.
With Comixwell Spring.